Yeah. Is this a designer willing to change if you can't find his stuff?
Not really. We've told him that we can't find Brandon Cedars, and it literally took me one nursery to get him to swap over to Little Giants because what they had in there, I can't remember what it was. I never heard of them, and here they were a southern climate shrub.
Yeah. I would just keep record of every call you make, date, time you made it, to who you talked to. And then if you can't find this stuff, present it to that designer and be like, here, dude, these are all the places we've checked. They're not available. All these different places that checked all around the state, all around the country. We need to come up with a better solution because, I can't spend the rest of my life looking for this stuff, right? But if you present it to them with documentation, instead you just say, well, I checked everywhere, to them, they're like, yeah, right. But if you say, here's all the places I checked, time, date, who I talked to, then it has a lot more meaning. And then maybe somebody with some common sense on the other side is going to be like, okay, we need to switch it up. Hey, Kurt, what's up?
Out on the river looking at dolphins.
Oh man, look at Kurt. He's out on the boat somewhere. Kurt, rub it
I'm
in.
down in Florida.
Where at?
Merritt Island.
Where's that at?
About 15 minutes west of Cocoa Beach.
Okay.
It's east side of Florida.
Cocoa Beach, is that above Naples? Below Naples?
I believe it's above Naples.
Okay. Yep.
It's by the Kennedy Space Center.
Oh, all right.
So
That's up near you, Paul, isn't it?
yeah.
No, not quite.
On vacation, taking the phone call.
Nice. Well, yeah, I hope you're a good captain there, Captain. So
We'll see.
yeah. All right. So yeah, Corey, as far as doing that, I would definitely, these guys sometimes they can be a little pain in the butt, but documentation that's what I look for.
Yeah, the only thing I think I got a meeting with them at 12:30, but what I do is most of these growers that have been in contact are sending me confirmation emails. So I even got this nursery sending me, no, we don't have this, or I can only give you 10 of these.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, so much easier for him to just, bet on to find something else more suitable for your area. Try to have you looking all over the place,
Yeah.
So, I mean, that would be my option. Yeah. So anyhow. Yep. And you got a meeting at 12:30 today. What's going to go on then?
We got to go over ironically a cost analysis because they want to know what they have to write the bond out for, and I'm like throwing my hands up in there. I'm like, I can't even find the trees. What do you want me to tell you?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, just gonna have to get somebody with some common sense there somewhere. Somebody has to have common sense in the room.
Yeah, I think this guy was hired straight out of college. He's pretty young.
Oh, great. Yeah, they're the best.
Yeah,
really.
just tell them it's COVID related. You'll get away with it.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, is there anybody else there you can talk to besides this designer, or is it, somebody from the committee other than this guy?
I actually am friends with the mayor. He's supposed to be there today, so he's sitting in on it. And I think he's doing more of that I think it's a break from his normal political stuff because there's a lot going on around here. So,
yeah, good. It'll get resolved one way or another.
Yeah, it will. I mean, they're gonna have to come off their plants. I mean, it's and then on top of it, it's the wrong time of season trying to get this many in.
Yeah. Yeah. If this stuff isn't dug out of the ground pretty soon, it's going to be too late, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I mean, that's the battle we always had trying to find, because we did a lot of lot of work, period. And we were always ordering truckloads of plants in, and we were always looking for something. And I was always going back to the architects and be like, can't find this, can't get this, and then making substitutions when possible. Most of the time they're pretty good about it. Usually went like this. First time it was just flat out no, right? And then after I'd wait a little bit, and I'd call them again, and they'd be like, okay, well, keep trying. And then like the third call, they'd be like, well, okay, well, let's give me some time to kick around some different ideas. Usually took about 4 calls, and then they finally realized, like, okay, we need to get on this and make a change and move on, right? So it's a process.
Well, I think somebody's going to get their hands slapped because without the performance bond issued for us to start, I don't know how they even sold building permits.
Yeah.
Because actually in the codes that you can until the shelters are in place on the variants or on the bylaws out on that area.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So, I mean, it sounds like a nice job.
Yeah, it does. And that's the other thing we got to talk about. You changed it up. Now we went from hydro seeding over 2 acres and mulching everything to now he just wants tree rings around it. Well, I know the guy that owns the land, and it was supposed to be burned and all wood chipped. And I know what's going to come next. He's going to have me mow it all. My guys mow it all, and I do not want to go around rings.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it sounds like somebody needs to put a little more thought into this ahead of time rather than like.
Well, that's what it is. That's exactly, this guy didn't put any thought, just threw it out there and was like, okay, this will happen. And it's me and one other guy working together on it. And we're both sitting there like, this isn't going to work.
Right.
So,
well, that's where the communication skills come in, and just be clear, record your data on who you talk to, so you have backup, because, with those personality types, depending on what personality type this is why personality types are so valuable in a situation like this. Like, for example, this designer, this architect, once you understand his personality type, then you can change your language and speak to him a little better and get better communication with him. As crazy as that sounds. This is a classic case of how valuable that would be in this situation,
yeah.
And we can go over that, here and, touch base on it, but that's important in the sales process. Hey, Rick, what's up? Joshua?
Hey, yeah, and sell them on that you're professional and you're an expert at what you're doing, and these are the reasons why you're saying it.
Yeah. I don't know how much you were in on Rick. This guy's fresh out of college and doesn't seem too willing to listen.
Yeah, that's always difficult. Right out of college is hard.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Well, let us know how you do in that meeting. I'd like to hear what goes on, and how you work through that.
Yeah. I can do that.
This, just curious, that you're talking to, when he speaks to you, what's he say? Does he seem like, does he throw his hands around a lot? Is he stand still when he talks to you? Does he smile a lot? Or is he straight faced? What would you say?
Honestly, it looks like he's like petrified of me. He looks like he thinks I'm gonna beat him or something, and I'm just kind of laid back and talking to him. It's just, he's so nervous.
Is he you'd say he's an introvert or an extrovert? Introvert. So, quick snap judgment here, but I'm guessing he's probably, does he focus on building a friendship with you, or just being back offish?
Oh, no friendship. It's just, here it is. This is what it is. Bye. I'm going on vacation for a week, and we're sitting there with the plan hands, knowing it's not going to work.
Gotcha. Anybody here want to take a guess what personality type that might be? Hey, Joshua, how you doing?
Good. Good morning.
Morning. So a snap judgment on that, I would guess that's a green or an emerald in that description. And I could be wrong. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm going to tell you the description of an emerald personality type, and then you can make the judgment for yourself. So an emerald tend to be an introvert. They tend to stand still when they're talking to you. They tend to look you right in the eye. They're very matter of fact. They're very black and white, right? Like, here's paperwork. But here's the thing. If it's who I think it is, they love data. They love information. They love to do research, you know. They tend to wear the same clothes over because it's easy. They're very systematic, right? Like they tend not to be all over the board. They tend to be like more direct, more straight line when in conversation, matter of fact, right? But they love the data. They love information. And they like step-by-step process. They tend to be organized. Now, this guy may not be, because he's young, may not have that down. But if it's that kind of personality, then you'd want to speak that language of being pretty direct back to them. Give them data, like I said earlier, record all that information of where those nurseries were, like, you know, so he has something to go on. That's what they like. You know, but being young like that could play. He's probably just nervous because it's a fairly new job, right?
Yeah.
And he's probably realizing he's screwing up a little bit, and now he's probably like just doesn't have the experience to know what to do. So that may be where you could step in and sort of guide him in a way without telling him what to do, and just guide him, because he probably just got into it, picked these plants. Now they're not the right plants. You know what happens when people feel like they're going to be called out on the rug? They tend to get defensive, right? And they tend to defend their actions. So he's probably in that situation. And I'm guessing here, right? But he could be in that situation like, crap, this isn't working out the way I planned. Now I got to try to act big macho bravo and prove that, you know, it is a good plan when it's not. So keep an eye on that. Maybe you could just guide them a little bit in a way like, hey, you know, use your experience, like Rick said, hey, from my experience, here's what's happening out in the field, like out in the real world. You know, these plants, you know, there's a timeline where we can't dig them. That's coming up, whatever that is. There is things such as availability, and just sort of explain it to them, that, you know, unless you already have done that, but just try to give them an out, so to speak, right? Maybe give them some options like, hey, but here's what will work in this area, and here's what I can get. You never know. That's what I used to try to do.
Yeah, me and the other guy today are actually going to pitch that, because it's broken into 4 different sections. So we're going to pitch to try doing it in 4 stages, hoping to be able to get each phase of the trees and shrubs in at that stage.
Yeah.
Because I found enough for 1 phase, and that's about it.
Yeah. Well, you know, and it's in general, we're all pretty much badasses here because we're landscapers, we're tough guys, all that good stuff, you know, we call our own shots. But really, you'll get further ahead with people with showing kindness and being resourceful than trying to, like, well, you know, proving them wrong, right? Like, don't try to prove people wrong, because then they just get resentful and they back up and they get hard to work with. If you can, like, you know, show some love and light to them and be that person to help them out, even if they are, you know, superior to you or whatever you want to call it, they'll see that and they'll be more applicable to working with you, rather than just be like, you know, well, you're sort of a goofball and you're wrong. You need to change your way. You know, people will just get defensive when you come at them that way. Not that you'd say that, but.
Yeah. Yep. That's one thing since I've retired from the military. It's kind of mellowed me out a little. So I'm trying to finesse things a little more.
Yeah. I mean, it's like what I always talk about. It's the psychology of people. They'll respond better to you if you're that coach, if you're that guide, if you give them the options, you know, of like, hey, I'm not going to beat you down. I'm going to help lift you up. They come at them that way. They're going to be way more responsive in dealing with people, in dealing with your employees, going down the road. Otherwise, like the biggest reason a lot of these business owners have such problems with employees is because they're not willing to change their internal thought process of how they treat people. Not that they treat them bad. It's just like they have this one set way of treating people and they're not willing to change it. But you'll find that when you change, you'll get a different result, you know?
Yeah.
So I'd go at that guy that way. He's young, he's probably scared, but he's trying to save face, right? Because he's probably got a boss or somebody to answer to, I'm sure. And, you know, if you can be that guy and give him some options and be like, you know, I'll do what you want to do, but I'm in a tough situation and here's some options. Let's take a look at them or something like that. My guess he's an emerald. Listen to his conversation. If he says things like process, step-by-step systems, do it the right way, right? Black and white, like listen to his, how he talks, and then you'll be able to identify if he is an emerald. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Whoa, what was that?
That was my phone going off.
Somebody watching cartoons on this call?
Yeah.
So, yeah, let me know how you make out on that and there. Joshua, what is up?
Hey, yeah, yeah, I wasn't at last meeting. I had a really hard couple of weeks.
Yeah, I heard
Oh,
you.
man.
Tell me about that. What's going on?
I have had two really great supervisors, and so we were really cranking it up. I was like, sweet, I'm here. We got finally two good crews going. And I loaded up quite a lot of work, and then tons more estimates were flowing in. Meanwhile, I'm trying to wrestle with this pretty intricate landscape design. And then my supervisor says, I need to quit because of the other. And she's amazing, and we kept her on. She works at our flower farm now, but anyways, the other supervisor was challenging, and then eventually had to let her go. It was a mutual thing, but now I'm left with no supervisors, and that was beyond a little bit more stress that I wanted to deal with. It's just there was just too much. There still is too much going on. Luckily, I have a new good hire, but she's a Hort student graduate, so she needs a ton of experience. But at least I have someone good coming in, and then my existing other employees are good. But yeah, it's pretty stressful managing everything sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. What was the reason she quit? Just curious.
She had an injury the year before and was off work for about 4.5 months. And she had a lot going on in her life. Both these women were a fair bit older, and she couldn't manage very well. Just her mental health and physical health was really bad. So we both agreed that it's not good. It's better for her and our business if she didn't continue. So that was tough, but that put me back in the field, and then everything just piles up, and it's tough.
You guys, anybody else here have that situation happen to them? Get the good lead man, a good foreman, and they up and quit right when the busiest time of the year?
Actually, just had my guy that's been with me for 4 years gone.
He's gone?
Yeah, he called him back to work, and he no-showed.
Wow.
Oh, dang.
Then a week later, I get an unemployment claim.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Can't forget those. They're going to nail you with those every time. Yeah. Yeah. You know, and obviously communication, sometimes communication just isn't enough. You know, people are just not ready to move on in your business. And that's what we always talk about. Keep that hiring process going, because that's really your only option, you know, is just keep bringing people in and trying to find them and bring them up. You know, there's no other. So at this point, she's done and out of the picture. No chance of bringing her back. Okay.
It made me wonder, like, we used to do a ton of maintenance, and that my goal was to do maintenance and install work, but I find it extremely chaotic to be running maintenance and install work. I think it'd be a lot more simple if I just did install work. I don't know. I know landscapers who did both and then they went to either or. There's no right way, but this whole scenario's got my head thinking that it'd be easier just to do install work, but I'm not sure.
Could be till you get reorganized. What's going to be your next step? What in your eyes, what do you think's the next step's going to be in the situation you have right now?
Luckily, I have one of the supervisors, my original one, this week and next, and then my new hire comes in. So I don't actually have to go back to the field completely until a week and a half or so. So I gotta buckle down on this design I have. I gotta get that done, and then I have to train the heck out of my new employees, basically. That's sort of what I'll do.
Yeah. Rick, you just hired a bunch of guys. What's your, right now, what are you doing to keep them in the loop and making sure they don't drop off? I mean, you still looking for more guys, or how you handling that?
Yeah, I'm looking for about 4 or 5 more guys, because the landscaping end of it has just exploded in the past week. So I'm going to have to bring on another crew. But as for all the other guys that I've hired, they're all working out really well. The main key is the communication, and every morning we're having our meetings, we're going through what needs to be done, and we're having fun with it. It's more of a lighthearted type meeting, so that way it's and everyone gets out their questions and stuff like that, and we all make sure we're clear on the instructions that's given. About a week and a half ago, or a couple weeks ago, the main guy that I had came down with cancer, so he had to leave, and he was going to be my my property operations manager for the condo that we picked up. And I hired a new guy, and he's working out really well. He's right on board with the communication end of it, so he kind of fell right into the direction I was bringing the company. But as for everyone else that I've hired over the winter, man, they're working out great so far. I did have one guy that's been with me for a year now that I let go the other day because he doesn't understand the culture of the business right now. He's very he's anxiety ridden and very angry person, quick to get mad, and none of the other guys are that way. So I let him go because he was just bringing down the rest of the crew. And sometimes you have to sacrifice one for the rest, because that they'll come in and they'll ruin the culture of the business real quick. So hard decision, because when he was here, he worked really good, but he called out twice because he just wasn't in the mental capacity to work. So very hard decision to make, but it had to be done. So overall, though, we're headed in the right direction, and it's been great. And the one thing that Jim's taught me, everyone, is to continually look for guys, and it's paid off. So I haven't stopped running ads, and in the past 2 months I've had over 100 guys apply, and now I have a handful of them in my back pocket where I can go back to and say, hey, we have a position available for you now, you know, so it takes a lot of the stress out of having to let someone go, because you can always go back to these people. It might take a few to say, okay, yeah, I'm going to leave my job that I'm at now and come with you guys, but it definitely is a stress reliever knowing that I have 50 guys I could probably call and probably get, you know, at least 2 of them on.
Well, you need to send a couple up to Josh because he's looking for a few.
Where's he at?
Canada.
Yeah, I don't know if I could sell that one.
Send a truck up. Yeah.
I could sell a lot of things, but that one, I don't know.
So Josh, right now, what's your plan? You gonna obviously you got to reach, train up your new hire, but then what else are you gonna what are some other options?
I got to hire more people. I did have a guy apply who's got a lot of experience, and that could be good, but he wouldn't be able to start till May, and he may not take the job. He was getting paid quite a bit more than I can offer at a previous job in a very affluent area. But you never know, that could really help us. Yeah. And I get pretty stressed out about jobs and like not knowing what our schedule is. And when we get complicated jobs, like for instance, we have this waterfront property and we're doing a design for it, but I don't know, like they're really committed and I don't know what of this design they're going to go for. We have to create a construction estimate and then they may or not go for a certain amount, but I have to leave a block for them in case they go for everything. And then meanwhile, I got these little estimates coming in and it's, and then the existing clients throw stuff at you. And it's, really tricky juggling it all. But, I think this is just going to be a painful year. We'll get our office, we're going to build an office and we'll get an office helper and that will alleviate some of my stress. And I think it'll all pan out.
In situations like that, what helped us a lot was like I was talking about the calendar and scheduling your jobs out according to calendar, according to man hours, because that is black and white. It's like X amount of man hours per job covers X amount of days with X amount of people, employees. And then you can schedule it out. So if you're in a situation where they're like, well, I don't know if we're going to add more to the work or not, then you can know about where you're at in the schedule. And we used to take the, as they paid us, as they put a 50% deposit down the jobs, that's when we scheduled them. Up to there's no promises, and I know that can be tough sometimes with personal relationships, things like that, but you're running a business and you can't like, okay, I'll wait for your decision and I'll hold everybody else off until you make your decision. That doesn't work well for businesses. You got to try and make it black and white as possible. Like, here's my schedule. We need to, like, if you want in the schedule, we need to figure it out. And, it just gives you more of a place to stand instead of being like, I hope, it becomes a juggling act. Then it's really hard.
And that's where a design becomes a stumbling block because you have to finish the design in order to create the construction estimate. And then as soon as you present it, they might be like, okay, we need to do it. Let's do it now. And then it's like, well, this took me months to create. I didn't know how much of this you were going to do. So I almost need a deposit at the beginning of an estimate to lock them in for a few weeks of work or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, particularly this time of year too, you need to get more defined as to what's going to happen. Because if you're just sitting back waiting for somebody that wind to change, and then it just creates havoc on your schedule, and that's sort of not good. So yeah, anytime you can get a deposit, I really tried at this time of year to get commitments. There's a lot of moving parts, and just trying to figure it out and put everything on my schedule. It's the only way I could keep my sanity. And then when people said, well, I'll think about it, I'm like, well, okay, but we're booked out till, end of May right now. So, here's your options. So you throw back options to them because they don't know what they're doing on the other end either, half the time. They expect you to fulfill all the work. It just doesn't always work that way. So, yeah, I mean.
Josh, do you charge for the design?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know a lot of companies that will just cancel the design fee if you go for the construction, but that's just bonkers to me.
What we do is we charge for the design, and we get that commitment on the design, and we say to them, all right, well, when you sign on, you know, we'll kind of take that design off of there, that cost of that design, but we build it into the construction, so you're still getting paid for it. And they don't realize it, and you're more likely to get the commitment, you know, right off the bat.
But then how do you know what the construction costs, like the construction estimate is going to be before you finish the design?
Well, you don't, but what we do is we, you know, we finish that design, and before we even present the design, we already have the construction end of it done. We've already gone through the property. We've already done the design, so we know what plants we're doing. So we know, you know, the man hours and the material costs before we even present the design. So, and we can say, and then what we do is we build in the design cost to our construction. So in other words, on the labor, say it might be $5,000 and you did $1,000 design. Now the labor end of it becomes $6,000. So you're still getting that back, but when you go to give it to them, you're minusing out that design, and they're like, oh great, I just got a design for free, you know. And they kind of suck that in, you know. But in reality, you're still getting paid for that design because you've built it into your construction or your labor.
Yeah, that could, and we do that. We always present the construction estimate when we present the design. I just wish I had a magic ball that could predict the future of my clients.
Well, what I usually will say to them is like, look, if you sign up right now, give me that commitment. We'll put you into the schedule. You give me your deposit, and that will automatically come off. If you have to wait and think about it, you have to pay for the design. You know, and that's just how it works, you know. And then you're going to make an extra $1,000 if they waited 2 weeks, for instance. You know, so kind of they're thinking money wise, wow, this makes sense for me to sign up now, give him the deposit because I'm going to save the $1,000.
Yeah.
So Josh, moving forward, what's the one most important thing you want to try to accomplish in the near future? You know, I know there's a lot of stuff you need to do, a lot of moving parts, but you know, what's the one thing that mean have the biggest impact in your business to accomplish?
Well, the stress comes from having too much on my plate. So the sooner I can have trained, functioning employees, the sooner I'm out of the field and I'm dealing with the stuff on my plate. Simple as that. So it's all about having trained employees, I'm pretty sure.
I liked how you deciphered that problem, and that's exactly what I want you guys to do. Is like, because most people who struggle to, you know, be really profitable in business, they ask how and what questions. You know, how am I going to figure this problem out? You know, what's going on, right? They ask those type of questions. Really, what you want to do is start asking the why and the who questions. Why is this happening, right? But the reasons it's happening, what's the solutions, and then who do I need to contact? Who do I need to be, right? Like, for example, who do I need to be? So how many employees do you need to hire roughly? How many?
I need 2 more.
2 more. So who do I need to be? So I use this analogy. I did it in my business. I would, you know, just pretend you need to hire 10 more. Now, what actions would you take to hire? You needed 10 more in the next couple of weeks. It's going to be a lot more action than this too, right? And that's basically what Rick did. You know, he needed like 170,000 people and he got them, but no, he needed like 15. You know, but he took he took action is what he did. His mindset changed. And, so it's just a trick of the mind, just pretend you need 10. And you probably get off this phone call today and be like, I got to write ads. I'm going to call people. I'm going to get people coming in, and you'll find it too a lot easier using that mindset. So, you want to ask why and who questions, not how and what questions. You don't want to say, how the heck's this happen? Why is this happening to me? Like, right. You want to ask, why and who questions. Why is it happening? Figure it out. Why they quit, who cares? They quit, right? These people, supervisors, you got to pack up, move on, come up with a game plan. So I think that game plan is great, and just focusing on that, because the more action you take in that hiring process, the more people you're going to get, the more better results you're going to get. You're going to go through a lot of people, but they're out there. You'll find them eventually. When you start opening doors, then things start happening. But if you don't open the doors, then or if you take minimal action on those issues, and I know it's not easy. I'm not trying to make it sound easy. I know it's not. I've been there many, many times. I've been there where where your foreman walk off in the spring.
It's very hard, but it's doable. I mean, the key word that Jim just said is your mindset. If you can get your mindset to do it, you're gonna, it's a whole different game once you get your mind in line with what you need to do. I needed 15 to 20 guys, and I was like stressed out to the max. And with Jim's help and the way he guides you, you place the right ad, you're gonna get the results. And you have to have a process of hiring these guys. You can't just go into it and not have a process. And it has to be, and I've set it up now where it's running like a well-oiled machine, where one thing falls into the place of the next. And, it's processes of where the paperwork goes, how I get back to these guys, how the interviews work out. I mean, right down to every detail, because if you don't, then it's just going to be a mess. I needed 15 to 20 guys. So I needed to say to them, look, I need, I was thinking in my mind, I need 30 guys now, and out of the 67 guys that applied, I had enough experience out of all of them where I could get my 15 to 20, and I did close to 50 interviews before I got my 15 to 20 guys. But when I did, it was perfect, but the mindset is the key that Jim said. So got to get that mindset in line with what you need.
The other thing too that might help you guys in thinking is, trying to break habits and molds here, is when you run into a problem in your business, one way to look at it is like, don't look at it as a problem, just look at it as you're not being using your imagination enough. Think of it that way. Okay, I got this. Finding employees, like, say to yourself, I'm just not being creative enough. I'm not using my imagination enough, right? Like, imagination is a powerful thing. So start thinking like out of the box. How can I think like there is no box? Okay, I've always done it this way to hire people. Let's just reverse the whole process and just go a whole different direction. Instead of putting ads in, start picking up the phone, calling people, like call your friends, be like, I need somebody because you don't know who they know, right? Like, they could know people that you don't know, right? You know them, but you don't know who they know. So you just got to use your imagination, try different things sometimes. Different doors will start opening up. And that's really powerful in business. And that's really where you want to be in anything you do in business. So, well, let me, keep in touch, Josh. Let's hop on the phone here. What's today? Wednesday. Maybe later this week, early next, and see what's going on, and keep getting this done. Okay.
Yeah, and in my case, maybe the problem is I had these older supervisors, and I could probably find someone fresh, little experience, and is totally into learning this. You get a lot of people who really want to get into landscaping, so that could bring some good new energy into the business for sure.
Well, that's a good viewpoint, because a lot of times we take that stance like nobody wants to work in this industry. It's just not true. A lot of people like to work outside. You just got to find them. That's why we're all here. right? We're looking at who we're looking for right there. We're looking at them. So, hey, Joe, thanks, Josh. Joe, you there? Joe's waiting for a cement truck down in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I'm here.
Did that cement truck come yet?
It did. It got here finally about 10:45.
Nick wants to know if your guys showed up to help wheel the cement.
They actually did. I was paying them to sit there and wait for 2 hours.
Good. Just somebody in this group, not going to say any names, had a concrete truck roll in. His guys decided not to show up. So it was like him and another guy had to do the whole thing. So no fun.
That's
Good.
terrible.
Terrible, especially with concrete. Anytime's no fun. But so, Joe, you got your crew lined up for this year?
We do. I can probably use maybe 2 or 3 more guys. I need to find a grass crew leader that can run the grass side of it. I had one guy with me for 3 years, and I don't know what happened to him. He just fell off the face of the earth, and haven't heard from him, seen him, or anything. So
Yeah.
he just decided to stop going to work one day.
Oh, I never heard that story before. That's a good one. I'll have to write that one down.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. And there's no answer for it. It's just, well, there is an answer. And if you guys have time, I'd like to roll through something pretty quick that I think will help you. A lot of it, believe it or not, is communication. It's not the answer to everything, but it's a big answer that we can all get better at. So Joe, you familiar with the hiring process? You got a chance to look at that in the 7-figure landscape platform?
I've been checking it out. I'm going to try to look into it more in depth, probably tomorrow or later this evening.
Good. In your spare time, right?
Yeah, that's the problem. Like finding any spare time to do anything right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Being
sometimes,
pulled in 19 different directions is just trying to figure out which direction to go first.
yep. And that one thing is, sometimes you got to slow down to go fast. I know there's a lot of stuff coming at you guys, calls coming in, but now's really time to sit down and be like, okay, I got all this stuff to do. I can't do it all. So what am I going to do first? Then second. And what's the best money-making activities? Obviously, we need employees to make you money, right? So that's always on the mark, always on the target. But, I think a lot of times we get spinning too fast, and then we're spending time where we shouldn't be, and it's just, this is really a good time to be like using that calendar, focus on when people call in, be questioning yourself. Is this a good call? Do I want to work with this person? Do I want to go see them? Like being really stingy with your time, because time's all you have right now instead of just running. So, but yeah, well, Joe, if you take a look at that hiring process, you need some help with it or questions on it, we can get it up and running pretty quick. And then it's just a matter of, doing it. Because if you need 2 or 3 more guys, then that's what you want to do, because it works,
Right.
and it'll help you, like say, find the right people, then your schedule gets a lot easier, right? It takes a lot of pressure off when you have a guy you can rely on in the field to go get stuff done. So always be looking for that hiring process. Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. Yep. Well, let me know if you have any questions on that hiring process, Joe.
All right. I'll be in touch. Thank you.
Okay. Nick, what's up?
Let it sit for a little bit.
Just sitting in traffic.
Oh, sitting in traffic.
There's a big wreck on our main highway down to where our job is, and so perfect time to jump on here.
Oh, nice. So what's going on? You get, I know we talked the other day a little bit. How's the jobs going for you?
It's going pretty good. We're getting, I got 2 little jobs that I scheduled before my big one. So we're trying to get them done here this week and the beginning of next. And then we're starting our big 6-week job sometime next week. It actually worked out. My supplier, I told him to order materials for one of these little jobs, and he ended up ordering the materials for the big job. And I'm like, hey, that's not signed yet. And so so I called my client. I was like, hey, there's a mix up. Your materials are ready. So if you want to get the ball rolling, we can start your job next week as long as you sign the contract. And she's like, okay, great. Yep, I'll send the contract back over.
Oh, did you guys all just hear what Nick did in the sales process there? What a great move. What a great unintentional move.
Yeah.
That's
I
awesome.
think my sales rep was a little scared for a little bit because he had about $30,000 worth of materials sitting in his yard without a signed contract from me.
Yeah. Well, sounded like somebody jumped the gun on his part, huh?
Yeah, he got my 2 email threads confused because we've been talking about this big job forever, and then I emailed him back on a different thread about a smaller job. You know, it was like a couple $1,000 in materials that I wanted him to order, and then he called me last Friday and it's like, "Hey, my boss is wondering when you're gonna get all this stuff delivered." I'm like, "You mean like a pallet of pavers?" He's like, "No, I got like 25 pallets of pavers, 20 pallets of retaining wall." I'm like, "No, that's the wrong job, dude. I don't have that signed yet."
Yeah. That's why I don't like text and emails, you know. I mean, if that email came through, I'd pick up the phone and be like, okay, is this the next step? We definitely want to order 25 pallets of this stuff, you know, and get the verbal over, at least over the phone, stuff like
Yeah.
so that stuff doesn't happen. But, you know, there again, you know, sometimes you got to go slow to go fast. People get in a hurry. They make assumptions, which assuming, I always say, take that word out of your business. It'll kill you. Assumptions. Oh, I assumed he knew what I meant. I assumed they knew what I meant. They don't. You got to be crystal clear as a bell. Like talk to them like a third grader, right? Ridiculously
Right.
clear communication, get them to repeat back to you, all that good stuff. Yeah. So well, look, it sounds like things are going. What's your next step for, what's the biggest thing you want to accomplish in your business? The most important thing that you feel would be something you want to tackle?
Right now it's just keeping track of the expenses and the labor on all my jobs to make sure that they're profitable.
Yeah.
Because I have a really good team right now. After I lost my 2 guys who didn't show up to the concrete job, I hired 2 more guys who were really great, and so I feel like we're ready to go for the season. And now I just want to make sure I'm getting my numbers, keeping track of the numbers and the labor hours, and getting these guys trained up.
Cool. So I think we're hearing, that's the power of this group, is I think we're hearing a common theme here with guys talking here today. You have a great crew, boom, somebody doesn't show up you really need, now you're scrambling, right? So what's the solution, right? Instead of waiting for that to happen, because it's always going to happen, it always happens at the worst possible time, is like we talked about, take action, get that hiring process up, and don't stop it. That's the one thing I learned over the years. Even when I didn't need people, I was still realized like sooner or later, somebody's not going to show up. Somebody's going to need to go. And I don't want to wait and be stuck with a whole bunch of work and be scrambling and fretting about where they at. So I just was proactive on that all the time. Did it work perfectly? No, but it worked overall. Yes, for sure. Because I was always putting the word out. I never stopped because I knew it was my safety net, right? That was my safety net. You know, even though I didn't need the safety net that day, I knew I was going to eventually, and it does work. So yeah, so that's the key. That makes sense?
Yep.
Well, Nick, you have a good program too. You're telling me about that synced up programs that been working well for you.
Yeah, it's been working pretty nice, especially for the job costing aspect, because I break down every labor aspect of the job, and my foreman clocks everybody into that aspect. So like today we're ripping out a fence and setting posts, and so I have a labor item in my time in the timesheet, and I can keep track of how long it's going to take us to do that. And then that all gets saved in the program, so I can revert back to it later when I'm, quoting another fence. I can go, okay, yeah, this one took so long, and so, yeah, I think it's going to really help my job costing a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Oh.
it's a good program. If you have any questions on CRMs or whatever, you guys should definitely collaborate, what you guys are using, because I know you're all using a little bit different stuff and none of it's perfect, right? You always have it's really good, except I wish it did this, right? I hear that all the time. It's a great program, but I wish it did this. So I don't think there's anything out there that's perfect that I've heard of. They all have, depending where you're at, what you want to use, how detailed you want to get. if you guys have any questions, let me know. What I do want to do is, if you have a second, I want to go over this communication process. I think it'll help you day-to-day operations right off the bat, right? You guys good with that? I can go over that. If you have to leave, you know, I'll catch you later on it, but you guys want to go over it? Take about 10 minutes. Yeah, good. All right, let me share my screen here. And all right. So can you see this creating a winning culture?
Yes.
Okay, so this is basically the concept of creating a winning culture. And this is what you can use all day long, every day, and just get better at it. Let's see. Let me move that thing here. Okay. Okay. So, you know, there again, you probably heard me say this. Number one reason people leave their jobs is they don't feel appreciated. They're frustrated, right? Like, so keep that in mind. So that's why I always like to do exit hiring or exit strategies. When people are ready to leave, I like to interview them, exit interviews, because you want to find out why they left. And can be painful sometimes, but very important. So you don't make this mistake the next time with the next employee, right? It could be just something simple that you're doing, you don't even realize you're doing, and it's making people leave your company. So exit interviews are very powerful. I recommend you do them. I know sometimes when people leave, it's tough to get hold of them, but I would still try anyhow and just be like, hey, just wanted to touch base. I know, you know, we're parting ways here, but tell me a little bit about some of the reasons you left, right? And just sit back and listen to them. It'll serve you better in the long run. So here's a concept. And this is, you always recognize people first. You might be like, Jim, I always recognize people first. That's right. So we're going to take it down to a deeper level on really recognizing people first and focusing on them, because they're the most important people, right? Everybody thinks they're the most important person in the world, right? So the trick in doing leadership is to not put the spotlight on you, but put the spotlight on other people, your customers, your employees, and really try to build them up. So concept is recognize people first, then their roles. They have to know what their roles is in the company. They have to know what they're supposed to do in the company. If you're unclear about that, then there's going to be confusion. When there's confusion, there's frustration, right? And when there's frustration, it's why people leave. It's not rocket science. And this stuff may be sounding really simple, but if you do this, you're going to see a big impact in your business. They have to know what what your expectations are, what you expect of them, clearly defined, and not change day to day, week to week. So the expectations have to be clear. You have to get their feedback always, right? You always have to get their feedback. You have to it's like taking their temperature, right? Like look at your employees and you're taking their temperature. You got to get their feedback, because you can't assume you know what they're thinking. You don't. So asking for feedback is key. And then allowing for questions, right? Like once you're talking to them, like what questions you have for me, right? And moving forward that way. So I'm going to break it down. This is the concept. I'm going to break it down even further into action steps you can take every day. So this is what I call a morning kickoff. And this is, I heard Rick say it earlier, that's fantastic. He gets together and have a lighthearted meeting. Best thing you can do in the world, because you're building a team, right? You want that continuity of people. You want them to build as a team. And so morning kickoff sort of goes like this, you get together all your employees as much as possible. And you might be like, Jim, we're running everywhere. I can't get my crews together in the morning. Well, and that's fine. Sometimes that happens, but you got to think of that as a fragmented crew then. And a fragmented crew is not a team, right? It's fragmented. So it's not going to work in the long run. It may work for a while, but it's going to fall apart. So you want to get them together, just like a football team, like the huddle, right? Got to put the huddle, get all the players together, even though the tight end's not going to get the ball. He still has to join the huddle. He's not going to stand out in the end and be like, well, I'm not getting the ball in this place, so I'm not getting into play. I'm not getting in the huddle, right? So when you get them all together, and you even get the guy who just started, the new guy, the rookie who knows nothing about it, doesn't even know what a shovel is, you get him in the game, right? Because it gives him a good look at the other guys who are asking questions, and then you start to learning quicker, like recognizing terms and that kind of thing. So you don't leave anybody out. You don't like let the new guy go, hey, go pull weeds while we have our important meeting. Now he's not feeling part of the team. So anyhow, you address the people first, call them by their name, right? Greet them. Don't just overlook them. You go over today's agenda, exactly what's going to go down, what's expected of them, where they're going to go. And then you go over the expectations of the job, how far along you expect to get with the job, right? Like give them an idea, like as much as possible where they should be at the end of the day. You want to go over the equipment they're going to be using, even though they use it every day. Be clear about it. Like, don't just take it for granted. Don't assume they know, what mower to take and all that stuff. Be clear. And they got to know who they're going to work with, the teams, right? They're going to know who exactly they're going to work with, right? Everything's got to be clear in this morning kickoff. And then where they're going, locations, addresses, all that stuff. So may sound pretty simple and basic, but if you do this every day, it's going to create continuity and unity on your team. And also what it'll do is you'll get their feedback. Like they'll be like, hey, Jim, what if we do it this way? Right. And then, maybe something you never thought about. It may be a good idea. I got a lot of good ideas from my employees. And then if it sounds good, then you make that change and you're a better company. So really key, getting together the crew. How many of you guys get together religiously with your crew every morning? Is it consistency, like 50%, 0% every day? Yeah. It's a good, yeah, it's a good move. It's and then getting their input's really key too. So that's the morning kickoff. Then we have the refocus huddle. What's that? That's when you send your crews out and you go out like 2 hours later and they're like sort of almost doing what you want them to do, but sort of off a little bit. They're off another project on the side of the house. We're like, well, it's close, it needs done, but we need to get this done first. So it's, they get off focus. So the way to bring them back to focus is first you praise the effort for what they're doing, be like, hey, I appreciate you're doing this on this side of the house, but we really want to focus on the front of the house because of, whatever the sequence of the job. But, good move, but we just want to refocus here, reset the priorities of what their priorities are for that day, what the focus is, and then get their feedback. What do you think about that? Like, right? Do you see how that's going to be effective? Just ask for the feedback. It's important for you to ask for the feedback because there again, it's like taking their temperature. Now they're telling you how they feel, what they're seeing. And a lot of times you're going to realize, oh, now I know why they went to this side of the house and started working on it, because in their mind, they were thinking this. So it just helps you make better decisions a lot quicker. Instead of overriding them and be like, well, just get your butts out front and let's go, right? Like now you sort of put them down a little bit and there's that feeling of frustration hits them, right? So it can be tough on our end as a coach to really not overlook things, but just get their feedback, recorrecting, move on, make your adjustments, right? And then encourage them at the end. So it goes back to the people who don't remember what you say, they remember how you made them feel at the end of the conversation. You should write that down. That is, if you do that every time, you're going to see a big impact in your business. People don't remember what you say. They remember how you make them feel at the end of the conversation. So if you walk off and be like, well, I told you the first time you shouldn't have done that or whatever, that's not going to make them feel good. That's not creating a team. They're going to feel a little frustrated on that. And that's why people eventually leave, not because that one instance, but that's why they eventually leave. So anyhow, that's the refocus huddle. Any questions on that one? Good. So companies with strategic recognition reported a employee turnover rate 23% lower than retention at companies without a recognition program. So praise and recognition is key. This is part of the mindset thing I talked about earlier. A lot of times, some of you I know, because I was like sitting there going, Jim, you gotta be kidding me. We're doing all this and you're talking about praise and recognition, fluffy stuff. Come on, right? It's this fluffy stuff or whatever you want to call it is going to have a biggest impact on your business. I guarantee it. Like you praise and recognize people for their accomplishments. They'll work way harder for you. They'll stick around longer for you. And hopefully they won't leave. And I'm not saying because people leave, you're not doing this. It's just sometimes people leave, right? You can't help it. So the corrective action huddle, this is when, you get there, it's just not gelling. It's not working. The guy's not doing what he's supposed to do, right? Or he's doing it wrong or whatever. So first there again, you praise your effort. Hey, I know you're trying, but we need to, and you do it immediately. You don't wait. You don't see a problem and then say, I'll get to it later. You jump on it. That's the key to corrective action, is you don't let it sit, sweep it under the rug. You identify it right away. So praise your effort. I know you're giving it a try. Jump on it immediately, but then you be specific about what you want them to do. Like, you're over here, I want you to do this in this way. And then you tell them what the objective is, why you want it done that way. Get them to refocus, right? And then encourage them on the way out. So just basically putting your hand over their shoulder and be like, hey, appreciate you trying it. It's not quite where we want to be. Get specific, go over the objectives again, refocus them. Maybe you might have to tell them 5 times, make some guys learn quicker than others. But encourage. But the thing you got to remember is when you just sort of get short with them and, don't let me have to tell you that again type thing, that you're just frustrating them, and that's just going to backfire on you. So it's a mindset thing, right? It's a habit change. So, managers recognize employees' performance, increase engagement by almost 60%. So praise and recognition is huge. So then, the other one is just sometimes we always look for things go wrong in our business. We're always looking for hey, why'd you do it that way? You should have done it this way. We're always looking for things go wrong. Focus on trying to look at what they do right. Really focus on what they do right. Because when you start focusing on what they do right, they're going to work harder for you. They're going to stick around longer because that's what people want. They don't want to, nobody wants to be told they're doing stuff wrong or put down, even if they are. So you got to be finesse and you got to okay, they're doing it wrong. So how do I approach it and make it right so they understand next time they don't, so don't have to complain to them. So the praise huddle is just basically sometimes you just got to stop, praise their effort, refocus them, encourage them, and make adjustments, right? Sometimes they're doing stuff right and be like, hey, I just want to come over and say, appreciate you doing this the right way. Because then I didn't have to tell you to reorganize the box trailer. You just went ahead and put everything back the right way. I appreciate that. Encourage them. And maybe that's time to make adjustments. Maybe you could say something like, hey, instead of putting the cans here, put them over here or whatever. But that's taken much more effectively than picking out when they didn't, put the stuff away, right? Or when they didn't, when they leave tools on the job or things like that. So look for things they do right. Goes a long way, right? And then, has here that strategic recognition programs in place exhibit 28% lower frustration levels than companies without recognition programs. So I got these from bigger corporations, obviously, because of the terminology. But the reason people write this stuff that I'm showing you is because it's important. And they found from studies that it works. So I'm passing the information on to you of why you should use it. It's not something like, if you feel like doing it. No, I'm saying if you do this, when you do this, your company will change. You'll be more profitable. You'll make more money. People will work for you longer. You'll get better customers. There's a lot of reasons you want to focus on this and not be looking at it like, oh, this is the fluffy stuff. This is, I don't need to do this stuff. Yeah, you do. Actually, you need to get really good at this is actually what you want to do. So, why do a group team huddle? It's going to save you time. It's going to eliminate mistakes. You're investing time into retraining. You're investing time into communication, but it's going to give you big dividends, right? So keep that in mind. It's going to hopefully avoid any rework because you're clarifying, you're communicating better, right? I had a guy once tell me that it cost him $10,000 because one of his foremen went out and put the wrong glue on an irrigation system, and all the parts came apart, plastic pipe came apart, and he had to redo the whole thing. Lack of communication, right? Like something simple. It's going to give you better employee satisfaction, team huddles, right? Getting guys together, going to give your customer satisfaction. It's going to retain employees longer. Like I said, it's going to make more profit for you, more money. So those are reasons, you know, I brought this up. It's really important for you to practice it and do it. If you have any questions on it, you know, let me know. I can get you this information. And again, even employee and employee, because the other thing you're teaching, which is really valuable, if you work on these concepts I just showed you, and then you pass it along to your employees and then train your employees to treat your other employees the same way, you're going to have a dynamic team. You know, you don't tolerate like another employee putting another employee down. It's like, pull them aside and show them these concepts. Like, here's how I want you to handle that next time. Right. And then it work. That's how you build a great team. Like, you teach your employees how to communicate to each other. A lot of guys don't do that. They just sort of left their guys go out there and talk to each other the way they want to talk to, and it doesn't always work, does it? Because these guys aren't good communicators, are they? Most of the time, your employees. Do you guys have some time here to go over positive performance intervention? This is pretty key. So it's PPI, positive performance intervention. This is, we're moving on to another type of action for communication. And this is when you have to make corrections to your employees. Instead of saying like, you know, hey, Dumbo, don't do that again. I'm going to give you a whole concept and process of how to do it. So, so if you're not getting accepted performance or behavior, you got to ask why. And here's the 4 reasons most of the time things don't work out well in a company. Employees, believe it or not, they just don't know what's expected, right? We went over this a little bit. And that's why they're making mistakes. They're just not clear on what the expectation is. Got to be super clear to them. Maybe it's they don't agree with what's expected, right? They just, whatever you tell them, they're like, I don't agree with it, right? Or maybe they lack confidence to do the role, like, and they need more training. And maybe they just lack of motivation, don't care. And sometimes we take that lack of motivation, don't care, and it's actually not that. It just needs more training, more clear expectations. So there's some of the 4 reasons. You know, here again, goes back to in organizations in which individual employees or teams are recognized, results were approximately 14% higher than in organizations which recognition does not occur. So just more data on that. So here's what we do. So the expectations are this. Have you made it clear what's expected of the employees, right? That's the first thing you got to say to yourself. If it's yes, you know, or, you know, ask them, have we made it clear what's expected of you, right? That's what you'd ask your employee. If they say yes, then you ask them to explain what they perceive you expect, right? That's the key. Get them to feedback what it is, and then you can make adjustments from there. If it's no, then ask them to explain what they do know, and then you clarify, right? Pretty simple. This is part of positive performance intervention. So, you know, things aren't going well. Hey, have we made it clear what's expected of you in this situation? If they say yes, ask them to explain it. If they say no, ask them to explain what they do know, and then you'll clarify, right? There again, organization, strong employee recognition, 12x, just more data on that. So here it is, getting the agreement, okay? So this is the second part of PPI. So once you give them the expectations, then you have to ask them, do you agree with the expectations of your role or position, right? So here again, you're getting their feedback, which is key in any building a team. If they say no, you ask them why not, get them to explain, probe for details, and seek agreement, right? So then you work it out. And it's like taking that temperature, right? You got to figure out why they're doing what they're doing. If they say yes, you move to step 3 and get the agreement before moving on, right? So it's always like you're getting permission from them, because why would you do that? Because they're going to respect you more, like, oh, you know, they really care what I think here, right? And that's important. So step 3 is basically now they agreed that, you know, they can go out and they're going to do the work, right? So now you ask them, you take it a little further. What's your level of confidence in being able to execute on these expectations, right? It's not good enough to just say, okay, you know, boss, I know what to do. I'll go do it. And then you say, go ahead. That's where big mistakes are made. So this part's really important, because you need to find out how confident they are at getting it. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 equals 100%, right? So if they say anything less than a 10, it's a concern because you want 100%. Pure clarity, nothing, 90% is not good enough. What are your concerns? If they say, well, I feel 90% confident. Okay, what's the other 10%? What's your concerns? Let's discuss it, figure it out, maybe need more training, more clarification, right? And step C there, if you were able to deal with your concerns positively, what would your level of confidence be? So you're getting them to commit and really work through. And you can do this pretty quick. It's not a long drawn out process like I'm going over it now, but you can go through it pretty quick. If it's a minor concern, you can deal with it immediately. If it's a major concern, establish a time to resolve it. So if they say, well, I got a problem here, or whatever, then don't just try to do it then. Set a meeting time, sit them down and go over it. Because there again, it's that sometimes you got to slow down to go fast because it'll save you a lot of headaches in the future. If you can get them to commit and tell you what's really bugging them, then good chance they may not just walk out on you in the worst possible time because now you're digging up what's eating at them, whatever. And then D, there's goal is totally confidence. That's the goal. That's the goal. E is closure. Let me see if I understand. And then you review what's expected, right? And then how you'll measure and how you communicate feedback. So you want that, like, okay, once you get the job done, how are we going to measure it? How are you going to communicate back to me? Like, you got to make that clear. There again, you always hear me say the best way to run a crew is to have them report back to you. And this is what I mean by that. Like, don't you chase them around asking for information. How are we going to communicate? How are you going to get back to me? How am I going to know that you did what you told me you're going to do, right? That's it. Any questions? Good. So you got choices with people, and this is the last part. 3 choices with people. It's one of those things like you go through the process and you have 3 choices. You can live with the performance, the behavior you're getting from your employees. Maybe it's not the way you want it, but you can tolerate it as long as it's, within the guides of your company, right? And it's a team effort, not just benefit an individual. B is you can change to acceptable behavior, performance, get them to change, right? And C is change position, separation, or just, discuss career planning. In other words, exit them out the door. That's the other option. So it gives you clarity in where you're heading with this. And that's what PPI's called. And that's how you go through everything in your business. And you can go through that relatively fast without taking a lot of time, and it's very effective because you're getting their feedback in the process. And that's super effective. So there again, organizations with effective recognition programs, 31% lower voluntary turnover than organizations with ineffective programs. So just more data. And then just a side note, this doesn't go for every state, but this is good. Prior to any dismissal, employee must have been counseled and experiencing consequences in writing and received a copy of at least 3 times, 3 infractions of your company policies. They need to sign it and agree that took place. So it'll keep you out of hot water down the road, and just needs to be kept up with, right? I know it's sort of a pain, like I got way better things to do than be worrying about doing this. But if you do this, you're going to build much better quality team and employees in the process. Make sense? So,
Makes sense.
all right. Corey, let me know how that meeting goes. Be really interested in see how you're doing with that. And Joshua, let me know how your steps for the hiring process go. I'd like to see how you're making out with that. I know you're feeling a lot of pressure. I know everybody is. And Joe, if you need help with that hiring process, just reach out to me, okay? All right, guys. If you don't have any questions, we'll wrap it up. And get back to me if you do have questions, okay?
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Thanks,
Thank
Jim.
you, Jim.
All good info.
All right,
Lots
talk
of-
soon. Take care.